Aurelia Tarquin watches as Brutus disappears over the edge of the opening. Her heart is still racing from the fall, but she slowly steadies her breathing as she looks around. The walls curve around the structure in a half circle, with the cavernous pit in the center bisecting the whole station. The light bridge has returned, but she has no desire to try and cross back to the other side. Lucius should be trying to make his way down to find her and the others, so she decides to take the opportunity to explore her surroundings. Reaching into a pocket, she removes a small shard of quartz and whispers, "Bastion, can you hear me?" "I am here," the AI responds. "Good. We've made it to the World Cedar, but I've been separated from my nephew. Can you help me make sense of this place?" "Beginning a scan immediately." Aurelia holds the shard up and begins walking. Eventually, Bastion says, "I am detecting a number of inert technology caches, including weapons and building materials." "Weapons?" Aurelia says. "Ships or personal weapons?" "Both." Before she can ask for further detail, she hears a metallic screech and metal clanging, followed by a fierce growl. "What was that?" she asks. Bastion is silent for a moment. Then he says, "Warning. I detect the presence of an unidentified life form, consistent with the records from the end of the Ascendancy. I am also detecting 2 human life forms in close proximity. I advise you to avoid the area." Ignoring that advice, Aurelia mutters, "Lucius, what have you gotten yourself into?" and runs toward the sound. Welcome back for another episode of Errant Adventures. As always, I'm your game master and solo player, Steve Morrison. On this week's episode, Lucius and Adalee continue fighting the Scourge Soldier. With some assistance from Aurelia, can they finally defeat this terror of legends? Find out on episode 28, Mandatory Decompression. As Aurelia runs up and crouches down beside Lucius and asks him what's going on here, and Lucius replies that he did in fact find one of the Scourge soldiers, he is going to remove a plasma pistol from his belt and hand it to her, and then he is going to raise the rifle back up towards the Scourge soldier. Now, Aurelia is getting her first good look at this Scourge soldier, and she kind of stares at it for a moment, again, taking in the bear-like characteristics of this creature, plus the addition of these 2 humanoid arms that are holding some sort of spear, and then these, fleshy sacks that she can kind of make out as it moves. She can see, as Lucius does, that Adalee is on the far side of it, preparing to launch another assault with her Paragon abilities. And Aurelia just kind of shakes her head and says, "I never thought that we would actually see one of these things." And Lucius kind of half manically laughs and goes, "Ha, I know, and to fight it too. It's not going great. It could be going worse, I suppose." And he shoulders the rifle and takes aim, and he is still in control from last episode, from where we left off. And so he is going to line up a shot on the Scourge soldier. So we are going to start off this episode with a strike. Now, because Aurelia is a shipbuilder, she's not necessarily going to be able to assist him in the same way that someone like Adalee with Paragon abilities is going to be able to. So he's going to get a bonus from Adalee, as he's been getting, as she prepares to launch this other assault. Aurelia is there, she is also firing at the creature, but because she's not a soldier, which it's too bad that Lieutenant Mila's not around, she's not going to grant Lucius any sort of bonus to this strike. So we're going to roll it plus edge because, again, we're in control and at a distance, which I think means that Lucius has been able to maintain enough distance because of those strong hits in order to stay at a distance. So we're going to roll plus edge, which is +2 for Adalee. We're at +4 on this attack. And we have the Ascendancy bot as well, which is going to give a +1 to Lucius on this strike. So he is going to roll this at +5, our first roll of the episode, and our continuing combat against the epic Scourge Soldier. Here we go. Let's strike. 8 on the action die, a 9 and a 10 on the challenge dice for a miss to start off the episode. So on a miss, the fight turns against you. You are in a bad spot and must pay the price. All right, well, here we go. Let's pay the price. 95. You are delayed or put at a disadvantage. So I think what that means is the creature charges forward, and Lucius and his aunt were hiding behind a couple of crates that were sitting out in this hallway. And maybe it looks like they were just sort of haphazardly dropped here. The creature charges forward and literally swipes its clawed front paw across and tosses the crates aside, and now is up close and personal in their business. Lucius is going to say, "Auntie, you got to get out of here. Try to flank around," as he is going to attempt to draw some of the fire by clashing, as he is just right up in its business with the rifle. He's going to basically point it right up into the creature's stomach and pull the trigger, and he is going to clash. This is going to be plus iron, which is going to be +1. He doesn't get a +1 from the bot on this one, but I think Adalee is able to confer another +2 as she essentially is unregarded in this fight. The Scourge Soldier has not turned its attention towards her, so she is able to keep throwing these energy bolts at the creature, and maybe she even uses her Paragon ability to pick up some of those crates that it discarded and toss them back at the Scourge Soldier. So here we go. This is going to be plus iron, which is +1, plus Adalee's +2 for a +3 on this clash. 5 on the action die, a 3 and a 1 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. So we go from Lucius is at a disadvantage here as the creature is looming up over him, prepared to strike him down with this spear, and Lucius basically from the hip fires the rifle up into the creature's chest, and it staggers back as these crates come crashing into it, knocking it off balance, and Lucius is able to withdraw a little bit and gain a little bit of distance from the Scourge Soldier once again, as Aurelia also sort of retreats and backs up. And that is going to fill out our third box of progress in this epic combat against the Scourge Soldier. So we're back in control, and Lucius is going to point off to one side and say, "Auntie, there are more weapons in there. See if you can find something useful. I'll draw it this way and give you room to get around." And he is going to attempt to use his position to coordinate this plan, and we're going to gain some ground here and roll plus wits. So this is going to be +3 on this roll. 8 on the action die, a 6 and a 3 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. So you can choose 2 on a strong hit. Also, because I got a hit on the clash, I should get a momentum. That is one of the combat bot's assets. You get +1 to attack on a strike, but you also get +1 momentum if you get a hit on Clash. So that's going to take my momentum up to 6. I'm going to scramble for every little bit of momentum here because it's going to matter at some point. So with our gain ground, I can choose two. I can either mark progress, I can take +2 momentum, or I can add +1 on my next move. It seems like it would be a mistake not to take momentum here. So the question is, do I take progress or do I add the +1 to my next move? Because this is an epic foe, I think it's important to take every bit of progress that you can. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the first tick in the 4th box of progress, and I'm going to take +2 momentum, which is going to take me up to a total of 8 momentum. So we're building that momentum up for a rousing turnabout once we need it. So Lucius is able to draw the creature away as Aurelia flanks around and heads into that armory to look around for weapons. Let's go ahead and ask the Oracle if she is going to find anything there that is going to increase her efficacy in this fight. And I'm going to say it's unlikely, not because Aurelia is a bad fighter, but because I think Lucius has grabbed the weapons that were sort of most obvious, and anything else is going to be a little bit harder to find. And I think Aurelia is similar to him, looking through everything as quickly as possible, although she doesn't have the time pressure of this creature charging right at her, but she does feel the pressure of like finding something and getting back into the fight quickly. So I'm going to say it's unlikely that she finds something useful. So that's 76 or greater. And when I say useful, like there are weapons, there's, all sorts of things in there. I just think if there's something that's going to help her give Lucius a bonus to one of his rolls, I think it's unlikely that she's going to find that, given that this creature that they're fighting is epic. 14, so no, she does not find anything useful in the room, so she's not going to be able to give Lucius a bonus, but I think she does grab some weapons, and maybe that will help to set some of our narrative positioning here in the future. So Lucius has backed off a little bit. He's got his distance again, and we are going to strike once again, and we're going to do so again at +5 for Adalee's assistance and the combat bot's assistance. Here we go. Striking. 9 on the action die, a 7 and a 2 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. So we can mark progress twice, which is going to take us up to 3 ticks in our 4th box of progress on this fight. Lucius continues to fire the plasma rifle down at the creature, and I think we're now starting to see that it is having an effect. So the creature, which has this exoskeleton, it is burning away, and though it seems to be regrowing, I think it's regrowing at a slower rate. And so it doesn't seem as though it is as undefeatable as Lucius first thought. So he's firing. There's like maybe some like dark blood that is starting to leak out from the creature, and it is roaring in this very frustrated way because it can't seem to close the distance and strike down this gnat that is bothering it. Lucius is going to continue retreating down the curved hallway that they're in and is going to go into another room, kind of trying to continue to draw it away from Adalee and Aurelia. And let's see what this other room is. We're going to roll an interior feature just to see if there's something interesting that pops up. 52 mummified or decayed corpses. Okay, so this is interesting. So he moves into this room, and I think there's a hole in the wall as he steps through, and there's open space outside of this room. It's a larger room, almost looks like a dormitory of some sort, and there are a couple of ascendant corpses that seem to be strapped into the beds, but they are like flash frozen mummified corpses, And Lucius almost instantaneously realizes that there must have been a breach, and before the station was able to form a barrier to plug the hole in the wall, the ascendants who were here must have been strapped in and suffocated and died in here. And so he is going to run over and kind of like kick over a couple of empty beds, because he's trying not to desecrate corpses right now, and is going to use them as cover as he lines up another shot as the creature barrels into the room, and he's going to strike once again. Now, I think that because he's drawn it into this room, I don't think that Adalee has a clear shot on the creature, so he's only going to be at +3 on this attack. The bot is continuing to fly around sort of at his shoulder and is firing these bursted lasers out at the creature. But yeah, I think Adalee is unable to get an angle on the Scourge soldier for this portion of the fight. This is going to be +3, 7 on the action die, a 5 and a 6 on the challenge dice for another strong hit. Come on, Lucius, you can do this. So that is going to fill up the 4th box of progress. We're going to go ahead and mark 2 ticks in our 5th box of progress. So Lucius ducks behind these beds as the creature is actually firing back with that like electric shock blast from the spear, and Lucius is able to duck behind, and the beds themselves are able to provide enough cover that Lucius is able to avoid any sort of harm from those as he continues to fire on this creature. And I think he's just going to keep striking as it seems to be continuing to work. The creature is stalking into the room. And again, this is a larger dormitory, so Lucius does have a little bit of room to maneuver here as he retreats a little bit. And I think he maybe is trying to think like if he can draw the creature towards that hole in the wall. Maybe he doesn't know yet if that is a permeable barrier, but he is going to try and move that way. And I'm gonna change it up here. I'm not going to strike again. He is going to attempt to figure out if that is a permeable barrier. So maybe he runs up and he grabs some piece of debris or detritus and just chucks it at that hole, because I think he's formulating a plan that if he can get the creature in here and then somehow force it out into space, that will take care of the creature. So I'm going to gain ground, and this is going to be rolling plus wits. So it's +3 on this as he studies the situation. 5 on the action die, an 8 and a 9 on the challenge dice for a miss, and my momentum is not enough to cancel out either of those challenge dice. So we first of all learn that it is not a permeable barrier. So he throws a piece of debris at it and it just hits the barrier and falls back to the ground. So that is not a viable plan whatsoever. And I think the bad spot that he gets put in here is his focus was diverted from the creature long enough that it was able to close the distance, and it is now up close and personal with him once again, and the spear comes striking down, and he is going to try to react under fire and is going to flee, dodge, try to get back into position. So he's going to do that plus edge as he reacts under fire. Six on the action die, a 6 and a 7 on the challenge dice for another miss on his react under fire. I think I've got to do it. I've got 8 momentum. I'm going to burn that momentum right now to turn this into a strong hit on my react under fire. So I'm going to reset my momentum to 2, and instead of the situation worsening, and I have to pay the price, I'm in fact going to succeed and take control. So I get +1 momentum for a strong hit on react under fire. So that automatically takes my 2 reset value up to 3. And then Lucius is able to dodge out of the way and create a little bit more distance as I think the spear gets caught in some of that bedding debris that Lucius was standing by, and he is able to move far enough away. And at that point, I think Adalee and Aurelia both enter the room, and Lucius is going to move far enough away, turn around, take a knee, raise his plasma rifle, and is going to fire once again. We're going to strike with edge because he was again able to create that distance, and then he is going to take +3 collectively from the combat bot and from Adalee. Again, Aurelia, because she didn't find anything that was going to provide him a bonus, since her role as a contact is not a soldier or a fighting-based role. I don't think that she is able to add anything in this situation, but she is standing at the doorway firing at the creature, and Lucius is going to strike at +5. Here we go. 11 on the action die, since I rolled a 6, yes. And a 3 and a 5 on the challenge dice for another strong hit. So he maintains control, and he fills the 5th box on this epic progress track. He is going to, again, continue to lay into the creature. I think they do force it back so that its back is up against this barrier. And Lucius is looking at that, and he is trying to, again, look around to see if there's a console or something here that he might be able to interact with. Because I think he's still thinking of jettisoning this creature out into space as the way to deal with it. But I think that he now has to look for some sort of computer interface where he can manually actually shut down the barrier. So he's going to look around the room, and again, we're going to gain ground, plus wits as he is studying the situation. See what he finds. 8 on the action die, a 4 and a 1 on the challenge dice for another strong hit. So we are going to mark 1 tick of progress, and I'm also going to take +2 momentum. So that's going to take me back up to 5 momentum, as he does see a computer console on the other side of the room. And he is going to run over to it. He shouts out to Adalee and Aurelia. He says, "Cover me, I have an idea. I'm going to try and open the barrier." And he runs across to this computer console, and he is going to attempt to access it and initiate this plan. So this is going to be, again, plus wits on this gain ground, and because he's a tech, he is going to get to add +1 to this. That is a 10 on the action die, an 8 and a 2 on the challenge dice for another strong hit. So he's going to take 2 more momentum, which is going to take him back up to 7. And he's going to mark another tick of progress on his combat track. So we've almost filled up our 6th box. We're halfway there, and Lucius is able to hack in, and I think he has the ability now to deactivate the barrier in this room at will. And so he is going to, I think, interface that with his personal computer so that he can do it remotely. And then he is going to shout at Adalee and Aurelia to get out of the room. I think as this is happening, the creature is starting to move back towards them. So he is going to turn with the rifle and fire again. This is going to be a strike once more. And I think because Aurelia and Adalee are moving to try and do what he says and get out of the room, Adalee is not going to be able to give him her +2 on this. So this is going to be plus edge, +3 from Lucius's edge, and +1 from the combat bot, which continues to fight with him. So +3 on this strike. 7 on the action die, an 8 and a 2 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So we can mark progress twice, which is going to fill our 6th box of this combat track. This is where I ended the fight last time, when it was just trying to escape and it didn't go so well. So I don't know if I'm ready to try and take decisive action and end this fight yet. But first of all, Lucius exposes himself to danger and is now in a bad spot. So I think he is providing covering fire as Adalee and Aurelia retreat, but he is not able to make it to the door before the creature gets to him, and the creature is going to slash down at him with his big claw at the same time that the arm is stabbing at him with the spear, and Lucius is going to react under fire here. Now, he is going to order the combat bot to charge into the creature's face and try to distract it. So once per fight, when you react under fire by using your bot to draw fire or create a diversion, roll its health, which is currently +5. On a strong hit, mark progress. On a weak hit, face the cost as normal, but then you are in control. Okay, so we're going to roll +5 on this as the bot tries to create a space for Lucius to retreat out the door. Here we go. 8 on the action die, a 9 and a 2 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So on a weak hit, you succeed but face a troublesome cost, so make a suffer move. I think it's a loss of momentum. Lucius has to go a longer way around to get around the creature as it is focused on the combat bot. But because I did get a weak hit at least, he is in control. So he is able to maneuver around and he gets to the doorway. This is an epic combat. And while it's gone pretty well so far, anything could happen. So Lucius, in control, runs out the door. He hits the button to close and seal the door, and then turns and hits on his personal computer the button to deactivate the barrier on the outside wall of the room inside where the scourge soldier is trying to escape. And we're going to take decisive action and try to finish this fight right here, right now. 6 boxes of progress versus the challenge dice. Here we go. Oh, man. 4 and a 1 on the challenge dice versus a progress of 6 for a strong hit. So on a strong hit, you prevail. Take +1 momentum, which takes me back up to 7. The barrier falls, and I think Lucius and Aurelia and Adalee, as they are on the exterior of this room, can hear the howling of the vacuum of space as it sucks the scourge soldier out into space, and they have defeated it. I think that's worth a progress on our extreme vow to find the artifact and stop the Ironhawks from gaining control of it and causing another cataclysm, because they were able to defeat a creature of the cataclysm on this station. And if it had continued to be able to operate on the station, could have done untold damage to everyone and everything on this station. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 2 ticks of progress on my vow. And Lucius leans up against the wall, the plasma rifle sort of cradled in his arms, and he's just kind of like, wow, that was a scourge soldier. Okay. I understand now why we had to flee from them. If there were thousands of those things attacking, I can't even imagine trying to fight them. And then he looks over at Adalee and his Aunt Aurelia and says, are you two okay? Is everything, are you good? And Aurelia looks at Lucius and says, I'm so proud of you, Lucius. I knew you had great things in you, but defeating a soldier of the scourge is something I never imagined. You may be the bravest Tarquin I've ever known. And I think Lucius blushes a little bit, and Adalee says, I thought I was going to lose you there for a minute. But you did it, Lucius. You stopped that creature. And Lucius continues to blush as that blush spreads across his face. And he says, oh, it was a team effort. No, it was a team effort. Should we continue exploring this station? And I think Aurelia says, maybe we should take a moment and rest a little bit and look around and see what we can find on this deck. We might be able to find more useful technology that will be able to assist us. And Lucius says, maybe you're right. Maybe a rest would be in order. Okay, and they are going to take a moment to rest. And what that means is I'm going to go ahead and roll a hearten here. This is going to be plus heart. 5 on the action die and 2 5s on the challenge dice for a miss. So this would be you take no comfort and the situation worsens. But you know what? I feel like this is a moment of triumph. So I'm going to burn my 7 momentum to turn that miss into a strong hit. So you find companionship or comfort and your spirit is strengthened. If you are shaken, clear the impact, which he's not. Otherwise, take +2 spirit, which is great. That takes him back up to a full spirit. So I think that encourages him and makes him feel confident in this moment. He is going to also, while they are looking around, they're going to resupply. So this is going to be scavenging for items. So this is going to be rolling plus wits as he resupplies. +3 on this roll. 9 on the action die, a 6 and a 1 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. All right, so we can take +2 supply, and that's going to take us back up to 4 supply, which is great. So we're now sitting at 4 health, 5 spirit, and 4 supply. And what I'm going to say is part of that resupplying is that even though the bot that Lucius used to distract the scourge soldier, I think was lost inside the room, he is able to find another one in the armory and now has this ascendancy bot with him as he goes forward that he can keep until he reunites with Brutus. I think the other thing of note here is that I'm going to go ahead and mark a box of progress on Aurelia's connection progress track. I'm not going to roll for it because I think that in this instance, she is genuinely proud of him. And because of that, and because of what she just saw, she is very, very proud of him. So that's going to take her connection track up to 3 progress. And I'm kind of playing it as if they have a bond already, but I think that's also fitting based on their familial relationship. But clearly, as we sort of discovered in the opening to this episode, Aurelia has access to an Ascendancy AI that she has not told Lucius or Adalee about. And I don't think she's told them about it because she is used to being on her own and operating solo. And she is being very cagey with that because she doesn't know how and when it might be best to utilize it. So that could produce some tension between them in the future. Don't know. We'll find out. Right now, Lucius has 3 boxes of progress on his connection with Aurelia. And we are going to go ahead and continue the extreme expedition to explore the World Cedar. Now that they've had a few minutes to rest and recover a little bit, it's time to move on. So we're going to now undertake an expedition, and we are going to roll plus wits to stay vigilant, as I think Lucius is a little bit wary about potentially finding more of these scourge soldiers locked up in rooms around the station. Plus wits on this. 8 on the action die, a 7 and a 4 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. So reach a waypoint, Envision the location and mark progress per the rank of your expedition. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 2 ticks of progress in that 5th box on this track. And we are going to roll on our interior feature to see what our waypoint is. 78. Unintelligible whispers. So they are able to find their way down to the next level below. And as they enter that level, again, I think they find some sort of like access shaft or service shaft, something like that, that they are able to climb down to the next level of this station. And they emerge onto this deck, and they immediately notice almost a change in the air pressure. Now, again, they're all wearing EV suits, so maybe there's an alert that goes off on one of their scanners on their suits that alerts them to this like weird pressure change as they emerge onto this station level. Not necessarily indicative of there being like a breach or anything like that, but there is something weird about this deck. And as they're on this deck, all of a sudden they start to hear these. And I think Adalee sort of stumbles a little bit, and she puts her hand on her helmet and her eyes are closed, and she says, I think they are ascendants, but not living ascendants. I think it almost feels as though they're spirits trapped here. And Lucius says, are they dangerous? And she says, I don't know. I would have to try and meditate to determine that. And Lucius is going to say, maybe that would be a good idea if we are going to be on this station and make a foothold on this station. I think we need to be welcomed here by whatever is left of the Ascendants. And Adalee will nod, and she'll kind of kneel down in a meditative pose and say, give me a moment then. I will do my best. And she is going to focus in on this. And Lucius and Aurelia are going to explore the surrounding area of this room that they came into, which I think is, again, a little bit different than the decks that they've been on before. The metal that the decking is made of is a little bit different. It almost has these like striations of luminescent energy that is just sort of flickering in and out as they're looking at it. And they're in this wide, large, cavernous room that has like weird echoes when they take steps. It's like the echo goes out one direction, but then comes back to them from a different direction. And they are going to explore the waypoint. So this is going to be plus wits on this. 5 on the action die, a 2 and a 1 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. So we can either find an opportunity or gain progress. I think Adalee is able to connect with the spirits of the Ascendants who lived on this station, and she is in some way able to put them at rest. Maybe they're the Ascendants who were killed by the Scourge soldier, and so she is able to convey to them that the Scourge soldier is no longer a threat to their station, and that they can be at peace. And that is going to give them 2 more ticks of progress on this track. So that is going to fill our 5th box of progress as we're exploring the World Cedar. So having put these spirits to rest, Lucius and company are going to continue on, and they are going to stay vigilant, and we're going to roll plus wits. 5 on the action die, a 7 and an 8 on the challenge dice for a miss. So waylaid by a crisis or arrive at a waypoint to confront an immediate hardship or threat. Let's roll on our waypoint. See what we find. 53. narrowing or widening path. So they leave this cavernous room where these spirits sort of congregated. And I think there was something in that metal that drew them in, that drew the spirits into this room. And so there are these huge bay doors that open up, and there's a large hallway outside that they start walking down. And as they're going, they notice that it is beginning to taper down into a much more narrow path as they continue forward. And they are going to, well, let's roll on our interior peril to see what peril they might run across. 76. Signs of a lurking foe. Interesting. Okay, what kind of foe might be lurking in here? I don't think it's going to be another scourge soldier. I feel like that is not something we need to repeat. That was a once in a campaign sort of encounter, and I think that it is not a scourge soldier, but because we know that the metal and whatever those luminescent striations are in the metal maybe draw in the essence of ascendants after they die, I think there may be some sort of wraith or something like that that is here. So I am going to ask the Oracle. I think it's likely that there is some sort of ascendant wraith here. So we're going to roll this 26 or greater, 3. So no, it is not a wraith. So Adalee was able to put to rest all of the souls of the ascendants who were trapped here. That means there's something else. There's a different sort of foe here. I am going to ask the Oracle if it is possible that it's high talent Idebren. I think it is a small chance, 91 or greater. So I'm just going to ask, and if I get yes, then we can determine how he was able to get here. Oh my goodness. 91. Yes, it's the High Talon. Okay. So, wow. You never know with the dice. So they are moving down this corridor, and as they go, what sort of sign might they find that the Ironhawks have a presence here? I think I'm going to roll on action and theme to see what they might discover. 38 for the action. Eliminate. 43. History. Eliminate history. They're moving down this tapering corridor, and they reach a small room at the end of it that has a number of those like data kiosks here. And I think as they enter the room, there's evidence that the kiosks have been destroyed. So they're looking around in this room, and Lucius is like, these kiosks were destroyed, but by what? And they're going to draw closer, and they're investigating them. They're looking at them. And Aurelia says, Lucius, these markings are weapons fire. These are not ancient. This was just done. And she touches one of the kiosks, and her hand comes up with some sort of like dust. This is fresh. This was just done. And Lucius is like, I wonder what this place was. And he is going to try and see if he can salvage some information from one of these places. And we're going to go ahead and do a gather information roll. And he's going to get to use his tech ability as well, as he's trying to see if there's some piece of information left on one of these, even after they were destroyed. Little data recovery here. So +4 on this. 6 on the action die, a 6 and an 8 on the challenge dice, 4 a miss. There is no information left. Whatever destroyed these was thorough, and there is no way for him to glean any information from them. I think that as he is looking at them, Adalee is standing nearby, and she's sort of looking around, and then she frowns a little bit, and she says, Lucius, I think we may have a problem. Lucius looks up and looks over at her, as does Aurelia. Lucius says, what kind of problem? Adalee says, I sense a presence. It's the same presence that was on that Ironhawk ship that you were chasing during the battle. It's the presence that was fighting me, that was keeping me from influencing that ship. I think there's another Paragon on board this ship. I don't think we're alone here. Lucius stands up quickly and sort of his hand rests on the rifle that's arced over his shoulder. And he says, are you sure? And she says, yes, I just started sensing it. But it's definitely here, and I think it's close. Lucius and Aurelia share a look, and Aurelia says, the High Talon? Lucius nods. How did he get on board? How could he have gotten through the barrier? And no one has an answer. So there is a threat, a pretty serious threat, and we are going to continue our expedition. This is going to be, again, staying vigilant. This is 6 on the action die, a 4 and a 7 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So we are going to mark 2 ticks of progress on our 6th box, and then we're going to suffer a cost. This is either going to be a cost en route or face a peril at the waypoint. So let's find out what our waypoint is, and let's find out what our peril is. 77. More unintelligible whispers. So they move past this room, and I think there are 3 doorways that lead out of this small information archive. And they spend a moment looking at the 3 different doorways, and Adalee finally says, I think we should take this one. And she points to the leftmost one. They follow that path, and it is another corridor that stays at about the same size as the end of the last room tapered down to. And they are going to walk down this hallway until they get to another door. And when they reach that door, again, they hear that coming from within. And I think they stop at the door. This is part of them being vigilant. They're listening, and they hear a voice that says, can you turn them to my will? I will try, my lord. See that you do. All on this station will follow my commands. I will have no other way. Yes, my lord. And this old crone's voice begins chanting on the other side of this door. Adalee's eyes widen as she realizes that this is the other Paragon that she sensed. And she sort of looks at Lucius, and there is fear in her eyes because she was not able to overcome, even with the well of power within her, she was not able to overcome this other Paragon's defenses. And she has this moment of fear. Lucius reaches out and rests a hand on her shoulder and sort of just catches her eye and looks her dead in the eye and just nods as if to say, remember what we talked about. You are learning, but you can do this. You have the power. You have the ability to do this. And Aurelia, she is looking at the plasma pistol in her hand, And she has this look of ferocity on her face as she looks at the doorway and looks to Lucius. Lucius looks back at her, and they nod to each other as they prepare to open the door and charge into the room. The chanting stops all of a sudden, and the old crone says, "They are willful, my lord. I cannot make them conform to your will." High Talon Evro Idebren says, "If you cannot, then my other friend shall." Victor, and a very distinctive mechanical voice says, "Yes, my lord. I am your sword, and I will cut their strings to this station, and I will tie them to you. Ascendants, hear me. Your lord and master has arrived. Untether your souls from this station, and come to me. Come and be counted. The High Talon of Clan Idebren, Lord of the Ironhawks, calls you to his side, and you will listen." Thanks for listening to Errant Adventures, and thanks so much to Syrinscape for the lovely ambient sounds and music throughout the episode. If you enjoyed the show, please tell anyone and everyone in your life about it. And if you haven't already, please rate and review the show on your favorite podcast app. It really does help others find me. If you want to interact with me, my handle on Instagram and Twitter is @ErrantSoloPod, or you can email me at errantsolopod@gmail.com. I also post short fiction and campaign-related materials on my website, errantadventurespod.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.